Now then, Fathers for Justice first hit the headlines back in 2001 when 200 dads dressed up as Father Christmas and took to the streets of London.
But behind a very high-profile campaign lies a very personal story. Matt O'Connor founded the controversial movement after a divorce left him struggling to see his own children.
And just before we meet Matt, let's take a look at some of the audacious publicity stunts that have propelled fathers' rights onto a global platform.
Set up in 2002, Fathers for Justice was founded to raise awareness of fatherlessness, the family court and family breakdown. The protest group gained global notoriety with its many outlandish publicity stunts. In 2003, protesters spent 3 days dressed up as superheroes on the roof of the Royal Courts of Justice, and the following November, Spider-Man protested at the top of a giant crane. In 2004, Batman scaled the walls of Buckingham Palace. And even the former Prime Minister, Tony Blair, didn't escape unscathed when he was flower-bombed by the group in the House of Commons. But have the group's tactics changed public opinion? And more importantly, have they forced any changes in the law?
Well, with us now is Matt O'Connor, the founder, and thank you very much indeed for coming.
Good morning,
in.
thanks for having me.
Let's just quickly recap on your story, because by your own admission, you were a dad who perhaps wasn't ready to be a dad at the time. You were out boozing and doing all sorts of things you shouldn't have been doing.
Well, I said with Dad, I was a pretty lousy husband, hovering around the Mick Jagger mark, and I always put my hands up to that and admit very frankly in the book that I wasn't ready to get married, frankly. And we had 2 young children, and I guess to some extent Fathers for Justice has been my kind of penance, I guess, my atonement for my sins, and I'm very grateful that I get on fantastically with my ex-wife, get on great with my kids, just taking my 11-year-old boy to just start secondary school now, so I'm very proud of them, and I'm very grateful that things have panned out okay. But my essence of what I'm trying to do is to try and take a positive from a negative.
Yeah, well, the negative that you had, you know, you had to fight to have access to the children. 1 minute you're a father, as you say, 1 minute you're a father, next minute you're a pariah, you're only allowed to see the children once a month, and then with supervised access. This is all in the olden days, of course, in 2001, whatever. And it was the moment on Waterloo Bridge when you thought, I'm either going to jump in the river, escape and be a coward, or I'm going to try and turn this round and do something positive. And Fathers for Justice was born. But then the idea of turning fathers into superheroes, where did that come from?
Well, the first part of the question, I mean, it is like a living bereavement. If you lose contact with your children, it's extremely difficult. It's a very painful experience. I think Bob Geldof described it as being like a holocaust of the heart. And that puts people in some very, very dark places. I found myself not far from here one night, and it was a very troubling night, and thankfully I had a personal epiphany and thought instead of jumping off bridges, start climbing them. The superhero thing was my wacky sense of humour, I'm afraid. You know, humour is my way of sugarcoating the bitter pill of sort of the pain and the secrecy and injustice, as I perceive it, of the family cause. And the superhero thing basically was about putting not to take ourselves too seriously, but, you know, slightly overweight men. I've been on a humble pie diet for, as you can see. And having something like the Mel Brooks Men in Tights, Mr. Incredible, but doing something that's a bit humorous, a bit Monty Python-esque, and trying to get attention that way, because everybody can recognise Batman, be you in Bromley or Bogota, you know, and the juxtaposition of Batman and Buckingham Palace, which I always wanted to do, was fantastic, because it made the government look stupid, and it just highlighted the absurdity of a nation of children growing up without one parent.
There were a great many newspaper reports that it had, as an organisation, been hijacked and had become frighteningly militant and violent and full of misogynists, and it was dangerous. But when we were led to believe that, you know, that Leo Blair, the Prime Minister's son at the time, there was a plan to kidnap him. So that was an organisation that you didn't recognise and you didn't want at that time?
There is always, I mean, people often have tried to smear an organisation of 12,000 men and women. I should point out, F4J has often been run by women for the large part of 5 years. It's something that doesn't get much press. But we've also got grandparents. Out of 12,000 people, I think you were dealing with about 30 people. And I always say to people, if you want sexism, racism and violence, we might as well start at the House of Parliament over there and work your way up to Scotland Yard. It's going to be anywhere. And we have to deal with it, and we had to deal with it head on, and I had to make some tough decisions in terms of getting rid of some people who...
Well, it was disbanded for a while, wasn't it?
Well, I disbanded it technically. It was a tactical retreat after the Leo Blair kidnap plot, because we'd had the Grenada programmes about Fathers for Justice, which I thought were extremely unfair. Then we had the Leo Blair kidnap plot. Even though there were no names, there were no arrests, it was a fairly transparent, tissue-thin story.
But was there a conversation somewhere between a group of people in a pub saying, that would be a good stunt, let's kidnap Leo?
I have no idea, to be quite honest with you. But the one thing I do know is that we had to respond to it, and the best way I thought of responding, it was like Dunkirk for us. You're on the beach, they're bombing the hell out of you. It's better to paddle back across your metaphorical channel and regroup and live to fight another day than it is to actually... Because we are going head-to-head against the government, day in, day out, even yesterday in court yesterday.
Yes, absolutely. But you are pulling back yourself now. I mean, you've decided that you are going to take a back seat.
I'm grateful that yesterday 2 people, one of whom, Johnny Stainsby, is a heroic individual, were cleared of an offence of handcuffing a government minister. It's the 7th jury trial in a row that we've won. The cost of the taxpayer yesterday was £500,000. This ridiculous trial, maliciously brought. My role, I think, now has evolved into a more ambassadorial approach. I'm taking on projects, be it the book that's obviously just come out, be it a film, be it a documentary we're looking at doing. So my role really is to sort of try and empower other people to take up the mantle and to carry the torch forward.
I asked in that film, because we're running out of time, unfortunately, I asked in that film at the beginning there, do you think you have achieved what you set out to achieve? Have you made the inroads you wanted to make?
Well, I think this morning's Times, they're talking about collaborative law. They're talking about, they recognise change needs to happen, that children should have a right in law to see both parents. And I will not rest, personally, be it with Fathers for Justice or be it for any other vehicle I'm doing, I will not rest until every parent and grandparent in this country has a right in law to see their children, because our children are dying on the streets. And when Rhys Jones died recently, the same age as my eldest boy, and we're saying what is happening to kids who are growing up without fathers in this country? It's a serious issue, and we have a duty of care to our children to act on that.
Thank you. Well, here is the book, Fathers for Justice by Matt O'Connor. Fiercely intelligent, charmingly foul-mouthed, and a fantastic turn of phrase, says Will Self.
And on the back, 10 Downing Street press spokesman said, Fathers for Justice, the worst campaign group I've ever heard of, it says on the back.
Fantastic. Good, that's a recommendation. Go out and buy it.
Matt, thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
So, this is the thing. Are you a father desperate to see your children, you're excellent, let you? Perhaps you're a mother being denied access, it's breaking your heart. Maybe you've resorted to desperate measures in a bid to see your children.
Are you a grandparent who's been cut off from your children? That's the number 0870 333 0550, or email us with your questions for Denise after this.
Hi, Carlo.
Hi, Papa.
Is Carlo feeling okay?
Why, Papa?
He's feeding the chicken.
He'll do anything for my spaghetti bolognese.
Ow!